where you live is essentially should be up to you. I mean, because you're the one that has to live there day after day. So you should be able to pick where you want to live, who you want to live with, if that's what you choose to do, and what you want to do in your community.
Everyone should have a roof over their head and somewhere to sleep at night. And I think the main problem with housing, especially housing for people with disabilities, is the demand outweighs the supply.
20 years ago, the options were typically people are going to move into a group home. What kind of group home would you like to move into is more of the question, and what agency. There wasn't a lot of choice.
Our mission as the New York Council is really to enhance the lives of people with developmental disabilities and their families in New York State. One of the reasons why the Council wanted to highlight this story, first because we want to share widely the excellent impact of this grant and this grant project, but I think also because the Long Island story of how they were able to pull policymakers together to really create affordable, inclusive housing for people with developmental disabilities, that story should be shared to other regions in New York State to see it can be done.
We need options, and we need people to be in the right places. So people want their independence. They want what you and I may have, you know, the ability to live where they'd like in a community they know.
In New York, every region looks different when it comes to housing options, and there really needs to be a regional presence of a role like a master housing navigator.
We were very fortunate on Long Island to have a master housing navigator named Trish Calandra, who works through a grant with the New York Alliance and the Developmental Disabilities Planning Council to make the connections between agencies like East End and developers. So she's been the conduit, and that grant has been the conduit to bring people together to the table to meet.
Some of the work that I've done is to reach out to the developers as well as the agencies to bring everybody together. And the county has been instrumental in making sure that it's very successful.
At our core, we believe that every person matters, that diversity is our strength, and therefore we have an obligation in our county as a community, all of us do, to do whatever we can to ensure that people are able to reach their full potential.
I think as a developer, without regional housing collaboratives, we wouldn't be here, right? Because you have to be able to talk to people in the know, talk to people that understand. As a developer, I don't fully understand every population that we serve, but we work with experts in that space. So being able to meet the other non-for-profits in the space, being able to connect with Suffolk County, understand their program. In this particular case, it was the Suffolk County Sewer Infrastructure Program, and it was the dollars there that implemented the 10 units of intellectual disabled housing here in this building.
Suffolk County has a tremendous need for infrastructure, specifically wastewater infrastructure. So any multifamily housing that's created needs to either be connected to a wastewater treatment plant or build a on-site sewage treatment plant.
When we think about how we incentivize inclusive housing, for us, it comes back to infrastructure funding. It's a way for us to put forward investments in infrastructure that are necessary. In this case, as we develop inclusive housing, we are investing in wastewater infrastructure.
Housing does organically develop. However, in Suffolk County, we have very intentionally created the movement for inclusive housing. And what we saw is that there was a lot of silos. So we worked to bring worlds together and make sure that there was a common language and a purpose through accessing the county's funding to promote inclusive housing.
Affordable housing and supportive housing, like I said, takes all levels of government to come together, and Long Island's a really tough place to develop anything. Affordable housing adds another layer, and you've got financing, lucky enough here, right, that was brought together from the county, from the state, federal sources, And as you integrate and you layer in these sources of fundings, the things that can be done to streamline them will help projects come to fruition and help serve more families in need of the housing.
Those investments in infrastructure are allowing us to create this critically needed housing for our region. And so the infrastructure investment is really important in that equation.
This particular property, Riverview Lofts, was something that had come together during one of my visits to the aquarium here with my 2 daughters and my wife. There was a dinosaur museum here, and that dinosaur museum was shut down after Superstorm Sandy and the damage that had been done. And we quickly had called the owner of the building, put it under contract, and then we envisioned this 5-story, 116-unit development.
So Dave had approached us, and we were really open to the idea. We talked, we saw the value in this. We had people who were looking for either their first opportunity out into the community on their own, or they were dissatisfied or living in conditions that were not acceptable.
The opportunity just presented itself in 2020. By 2020, they called up my parents' house, and they had the place was being built. This place was being built, and they had and they actually offered, because they had some East End Disabilities, actually was actually finding a way to get housing for people with autism like myself. I actually like living here. I mean, I live in the middle of the town of Riverhead. I actually like the fact that I have the river right here. I live all by myself. I pay my own bills.
It's nice to be around or in a complex like Riverview Lofts that has a variety of people. We have young people, older people, people with disabilities, people without. So it's a nice mix of people.
You can go outside, you can look outside the windows see the water. You can see the ducks, people around there having picnics, seeing people riding their bikes, exercising, getting a lot to know people around the whole area. It changed me a lot. It made me a better person and learned how to be more responsible for myself. Is taking care of everything that I need supposed to be done. My place is awesome.
They can relax in the luxury life. So they can go here, they sleep, they go, I got the good life. It's pretty good. I recommend it.
There's been a number of really positive outcomes of this project. So I think the first one really is that people with developmental disabilities, with the help and support of housing navigators, have moved from certified settings into more independent community-based living options like an apartment or with a roommate. And really they've driven that process. That's a really important part of housing navigation, is that the person with the disability is driving that process, and it's their wants and their desires that really is determining where they live.
Looking at this project, it reminds me of a lot of constituents that we speak to about what their needs, their fears, their concerns are. And when they speak about their children with developmental or intellectual disabilities, their biggest fears are, what will happen to my child when I'm no longer around, and how will they be able to live their life independently and be able to assimilate without someone being there for them, say the parents.
By doing developments like this and including inclusive housing in those developments like Riverhead Lofts, we're making real progress on that issue. There's so much more to be done, but I think we're creating something of a model here of a way that we can make significant progress on this issue.
If I were to speak to other developers, I would tell them about the success of this building and how it's worked and how all of the units have integrated really, really nicely. And I think that for the people living here, it's been a success. I think for the community, it's been a success. And I would say try it. And call us and come visit our building, come meet with the residents that are living here and talk to Suffolk County and understand how it's been implemented and what has worked.
A lot of times when you hear conversations about creating affordable housing, you hear a lot about the limitations, what can't be done, how difficult it is. But Long Island and this, grant is really a shining example of with pulling the right people together, you can make this happen in your region. And it really should be expanded. This idea, this model of how they were able to do it could be spread to other parts of New York State.
It's increased my independence because where I used to live was nothing like this complex. It's closer to downtown. It's a lot more accessible than where I used to live. And it's really close to everything because you just have downtown right down the road and they pretty much have everything I need.
Made me feel happy. It's making me feel like I'm finally where I should be.
I live all by myself now, away from my parents' house. I'm paying my own bills. I'm living in my own place, keeping this place, my apartment nice and clean and stuff. Cooking for myself.
I feel great. I do.